I, the Forgotten One, is the newest hosted game. It is an interactive novel in the same vein as the Choose Your Own Adventures book you probably read as a kid. This particular game has no pictures at all. It is, as the company mentions, powered entirely by your imagination. In The Forgotten One, you assume the role of the late king's eldest child and royal bastard, who was cast aside and sent to fight in a distant frontier war. The war you fought in is essentially medieval Vietnam. It was guerrilla warfare waged in a jungle, and despite the odds, you survived and became a formidable warrior. Now, with the kingdom engulfed in rebellion and an old comrade you fought with, who assassinated your father, the king, is now vying for the throne. You are summoned to restore peace by any means necessary. As you navigate through a world that responds differently based on your gender and orientation, you can specialize in three aspects of medieval war and choose from three distinct fighting styles influenced by your physical attributes. And you can interact with a diverse cast of characters, including the mother who disowned you, your surrogate father, and your half siblings. Along the way, you will face the harsh realities of war and its impact on the mind, while also exploring three different paths of mental development. Whether you strive to salvage your fractured relationship with your family or let it crumble entirely, the central quest is to find purpose and hope before succumbing to despair. That is just a little quick synopsis. If you found it interesting, I recommend you buy the game. It's great, no spoilers. I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. I think it is one of the best interactive fiction books to come out of this company. This game really stands out from other war-based games in the same genre by having such a focus on the PTSD and mental health aspects. I mean, your character suffers from being thrown into one of the worst wars to ravage this game's world at a young age. I also found the writing in this game to be top notch. I don't know if only I felt this way, but the game felt so long because the author is able to pack so much story into small, concise paragraphs. It's about 450,000 words, which is pretty hefty, don't get me wrong, but it feels like a million. This author, John Lewis, has such a compact and action packed writing style that makes the game world feel alive and like I'm there. He also switches perspective in this game, which most of the time in most other games I do not enjoy because I like to stay as my character. But in this game, when battles happen, you switch perspectives from your character to the grunts doing the actual fighting on both sides of the conflict. And I don't know, like, you want them to live even if they're on the other side, and the characters think about how they want to live and how claustrophobic and scary the combat is. And like the characters say a quick prayer as they continue on. I don't know, it's really great. I really like the character development in this game. Your character grows and so do the people around you. As I mentioned before, there's three distinct mental paths to go down, and they all feel unique to your character. I mean, your character can play as somebody who doesn't want anyone to know how mentally damaged he is and he keeps it all inside. Or you can play as a character who knows that he needs help but is so broken he doesn't know how to ask for it. The mental health aspect of this game is central to your character, and it's honestly one of the best representations I've ever seen of failing mental health and self-harm. Now, I myself, full disclosure, I've never self-harmed, I've never had a suicide attempt, but I've dealt with depression, and this game is really able to articulate what it can feel like. How you feel like nobody can help you, how you feel like you have to do it alone and you don't want to burden the other people that you care about. It really is just a credit to the writer that he was just able to write self-hatred so well. And as I mentioned, the characters around you grow. Your sister, and spoilers here, becomes queen after your half-brother dies, goes from a scared, crying mess to somebody who starts to realize how the world works and that she needs to be strong for her kingdom and for her people. And you can help her with that, or you can loathe her for having the childhood you never had with the crown you'll never get. The other characters are very strong as well. I like Darren, your surrogate father in this story, who you served with in the Frontier War, and it's very apparent that he faced a lot of the demons that your character struggles with, and he wants to make it clear that he cares for you and that life is worth living. It's really just, I don't know, a touching character arc. And while we're on characters, I'll talk about romance. There aren't a lot of romance options, but as a female, you can romance Mylon, who is a noble, and as a male, you can romance Lotta, or Oberyn, one of your knights. Lotta is also a noble, and Mylon's sister. I'm a straight male, so I only did the latter route. I'm sorry, I can't get into it. I thought it was pretty good. She's a great romance option, in my opinion. I like how she gets to know you. She realizes that the reason you're distant is not just because you're shy or, you're not very outgoing, but because of your crippled mental health. You have problems with any affection. I can't really speak on the other romances in this game because I did not do them, but I'm sure they're just as good. This author has more than proven himself to me. I thought the story in this game was great. I like how it lets you choose your motivation to keep fighting as you try to make sure the rebels don't win. And your choices matter and come to bite you in the back when you don't expect it to. And since your choices also affect how many troops you get, I found the system just really works well and it makes you pay when you're being too idealistic or nice, or if you're being too much of a bastard, then the nobles and peasants don't like you or don't want to fight for you or want to help support your sister, the queen. I think the battles in this game are great. I like how you get to decide the tactics your army uses and how it's organized and how you want to help farther train it and if you want to get involved personally in fights or not. And I can only imagine that your choices will have even more impact when the next game comes out. I think the game is pretty replayable now. You won't be getting different scenes, every playthrough, but the flavor text changes a lot depending on the choices you made, about what style of medieval warfare you specialize in, how you want your character to feel about certain relationships. I don't think it's as replayable as Fallen Hero or Lords of Infinity, but this is the first game, give it some time. I think you could realistically do about 3 different playthroughs and have them each feel unique, or at least somewhat unique from each other. This game is more linear than some other choice based games, but I think this actually helps the game and make it feel, I don't know, like more bombastic, more cinematic, and it just feels a lot more focused. There are some criticisms of the game I've heard, some I agree with, some I disagree with. One that I've heard from people, they don't like how you're not able to play as somebody who loves war or has had their mind warped so much that they only enjoy war. They wish that you could have less PTSD or a different reaction to the Frontier War. But I disagree with that criticism. It's obvious that this game is about mental health struggles and PTSD. Loving war and playing as a quasi warlord character just wouldn't fit and would force the author to essentially rewrite massive parts of the books just to allow you to roleplay that way. And I understand that criticism. I mean, more choices in this game are always a plus, but it's just not feasible, I don't think. Another criticism I do agree with, the romance options come on pretty strong and won't leave you alone even if you outright reject them. But I think they were written that way for a reason. It's consistent with their character, but it is annoying that even after rejecting Lada multiple times, she still continues to flirt even no matter how uncomfortable your main character is. But overall, I think this game is great. I recommend buying it and checking it out. It's one of the best interactive fiction games ever written. I really don't have any serious complaints or criticism about it. I think it's just great. I think that this author did a great job. I think it's up there with, I don't know, the Infinity Verse and Wayhaven and all the other great games that people love from this company. So I do recommend you buy it. That's all I have. This has been Conduit Gaming signing off.